you mind shutting the door as well? I'll walk you through everything, just in case things get a little too intimate for public hearing.
Yeah.
Now tell me your deepest, darkest secrets.
Yeah. There are probably disappointingly few.
But basically, the purpose of this vlog is threefold. Number one, it's to practice my editing and cinematography skills so I can become a better filmmaker. That's something I want to do. It is so that friends and family and stuff who care about me enough to want to know what's going on in my life, but not enough to like pick up the phone and call me, can have something to look at and be like, oh, what's up?
Sure.
Just check his vlog. And thirdly, is so that when I lose my memory in the accident, I will have something to look back on and remember things from my past.
Right.
So, with that third purpose in mind, if you just give some identifying information such as name, year, major, where you're from, etc., anything you think would be helpful in jogging my memory of who you are.
In the case of the accident, okay. All right. Well, I am John Wagner, a fourth-year civil engineering major. In the year 2018 is when that happened. All right.
How do you think this year was for you overall?
Like from an academic standpoint, in general?
Yeah, both.
Okay.
And the year, so this semester and last semester.
Okay, so the school year.
Yeah.
Okay. I think overall it was pretty solid. The senioritis had been seeping in for a long time. So this semester especially, I probably could have done a lot better in some of my classes, but did not out of sheer apathy. But, academically, I think kind of in general, especially when like there's a class that I know I'll do fine in, that's when I really just kind of let it go, and then I just do the bare minimum at that point. So, yeah, I guess that's from an academic standpoint. From a general life standpoint, I don't know. I guess I don't have like a way to rate it, but pretty good. I really enjoyed both the shows. Is He Dead was like kind of not a lull, but it wasn't as fun as some of the other shows we've done. But then Fiddler was like easily one of the best experiences of shows so far. So yeah, that was amazing. Getting the improv shows finally off the ground was a huge victory, I guess you could say. So yeah, I'm really happy we did that. And then most of my other hobbies are just kind of video game based, so that's not super interesting.
If you want to plug your channel.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of mangoes, twitch.tv, a couple of mangoes, yeah. We stream once a millennia. Now that the Hearthstone ranked season's over, that was fun. That's something I can talk about, I guess, was we did, for the third semester in a row, we did like a Hearthstone collegiate thing that's run by TESPA. And so it was me, Sam, and Emily on a team, and we played like every week. And then if you go 5-2 in the preliminary rounds, then you get to like there's a bunch of steps after that. But then there's a long Saturday where you play a bunch of rounds, and then the top 8 teams from that move on. So we'd never moved on past that, but we got to that round this time and last time after previously having gone 4-3 and not made it. So that was kind of fun as well.
So how do you think your last year compares to your previous 3 years as far as like?
I haven't really thought about it a whole lot. Like, I think in general when it comes to like last things, I think it takes a really long time for it to hit me that it's the last thing, until like it's almost like too late to think about it anymore. It's like already happened. So for most of the year, I don't think I really even thought about it a whole lot, besides making sure that I would graduate and having to get a job. But once I got a position, then kind of again it was just back to the normal everyday stuff. Didn't have a reason to think about it being the last year for any reason. So I think in these last couple weeks it's probably hit me a little bit, just because I'm like really trying to like hang out with people more often, which is like we're at a bar for like the third time this week. Like, that's not normal. But I don't know. Yeah, I think it's been more fun just because I don't have to worry about, like, there's only so much I can worry about going forward. I already have a position, we're working on housing, but all of that stuff is inherently like less stressful than schoolwork, I guess, and school in general, because I know that, you know, getting into industry is going to be a lot less of like my own free time infringed upon by like homework and assignments and things. Like I'll still have stuff to do, but I'll have, you know, entire work days to do that. And I guess engineering as a whole kind of ebbs and flows with how much time you have to put in and how long you go into the office or field or whatever. But I know it's going to be a lot less stressful, at least from what other people have told me. So I think I've just really enjoyed the year, knowing that if I can just like scrape by enough to graduate and pass the FE, then I've already got a position waiting for me. So I've definitely, I don't know if I would say slacked off as much as reallocated my time to emotional pursuits. So yeah, I guess probably just more focusing more on like enjoying the time with the people here.
Nice.
Yeah.
But anyway, what's something unexpected that happened to you this year?
Oh, geez. Now these feel like interview questions where I'm like searching for anything. Something unexpected. Huh. Let's see. Well, the first thing that comes to mind, which is a pretty lame response, would be quitting League of Legends. Because like it's something that I've like thought about every once in a while, and it sounds like really, maybe this is indicative of the reasons I quit in the first place, but like when I decided to do, it was very like just kind of like I'm gonna take like a break for like a week, you know, like I just wasn't having that much fun with it. And so then I stopped playing for a week, and I was like, maybe just for good, actually, you know, we'll see how that goes. And so I just haven't, it's been like a, you know, month or two clean now. I'm gonna start giving myself like those little AA chips every like major milestone. But in the past it was weird, because anytime I thought about like quitting for good, it seemed like something that I would never want to do. Like it sounds very much like an addiction, but like every time I thought about it, I was like, oh man, what would my life be like without League, you know? So I guess it was unexpected in that I never, like, I assumed it was going to happen at some point, right? Either that I just decided not to, or like the game would die off. So it was unexpected in the fact that I didn't really set out with the idea to do it, and then it just sort of happened. Boy, this is what my life is. Quitting League is the biggest unexpected thing that happens in an entire school year. Yeah, I guess other than that, anything on a more excited note would just be like how well the improv shows went. Like going into that, we really had no idea how much interest there would be on campus for it, and kind of the logistics, but I don't know, it all came together really well, so that was solid as well.
But what's something that you've learned this year, either about yourself or about others or life or whatever?
Okay, sure. I think, yeah, this year I've done a lot of introspection, I guess. Maybe because it's like the last, I'm like, oh, there's a new phase of my life, am I going to reinvent myself or something, you know? And I think that in general, I am more apathetic than your average person. Which is fine, I think. Like, I don't know if there's like anything I can do about that like, I can try harder at things, certainly. And it's not that if there's something I care about, I'll eventually like lose interest or like not give much of myself to. Like, if there's something I want to do, I can, you know, put myself into it. But I think in general, for like things that don't interest me that much, I care very little about it. So I think that just kind of learning ways to combat that, and like just forcing myself to put more work into it than I think, you know, then we'll do the bare minimum, or just forcing myself to put any work into it at all. Yeah, I think that I really just have to kind of find structure for myself in order to like succeed at things, because I'm very apathetic and, you know, forgetful, I guess. So if there's, I mean, I guess I'm thinking of this in a purely academic sense, but like having some way to keep track of like when things are due, or setting aside time just in my mind at the beginning of the day to work on something, so that when I get to that point, I'm not like sitting at my computer, I'm like, whew, I've just been watching YouTube videos for the past 30 minutes and I really could have been working on something. If I decide to work on it before then, once I get there, then I'm, in the right mindset, I guess, for it. So I guess just learning how to prioritize from a like planning standpoint, so knowing what I'm going to be doing at a certain time, so that I don't just end up with a bunch of free time and I just sit down and I know there's plenty of things I could be doing, but I start off by doing something that's not productive, and then that's just going to bleed into forever. So I guess combating apathy, to put it simply.
That's only 30 minutes on YouTube when you get
Well,
distracted?
no, I guess I'm thinking like between classes and stuff. But
Okay.
yeah, I guess the other thing would be just like hobbies. Giving up League frees up a lot of your time, and only so much of it can be filled by Hearthstone. So I've been trying to like maybe take up chess, and so I'm like trying to figure out like a plan for that. And so it's like getting good at anything, like you gotta. It's like doing something to get good at it and doing something for enjoyment are way different than I thought they were. And like there's plenty of crossover, but I feel like getting good at something takes a lot of time where you don't really want to be doing it, but you have to do it. So I guess that's kind of the non-academic side of that.
What's something that you've learned from another specific person this year?
Ooh, okay.
New question. Trying it out.
No, that's good. Yeah. From a specific person. There's a lot of different angles to go off of that with. Well, I guess the first one that comes to mind, and this has been from writing all of those Facebook letters, because that's just a ride. But whenever I write those, I try to focus it on like that person, not only how they've impacted me, but like how I see them impacting other people, or like the things that they're in. And so a recent one I wrote was for Hannah Covey, who in it I mentioned that she's just very good at like anytime she's in like a conversation with somebody, she seems very like supportive of them. Like anytime they're talking about something, she will always like if they're talking about an interest of theirs, she'll like try to ask questions about it or like be enthusiastic about it. So I just think it's really nice to, anytime you're in a situation with somebody, if there's something they really care about and they're telling you about it, you should really try to, even if you don't have that much of an interest in it, to support them in some way, because it's obviously something they care about. And so it's just, I guess, just the, really building people up when they're already trying to like tell you about something that they really believe in. Like it could be something as complex as them, telling you about an idea and asking them questions and kind of picking their brain about it, to something as simple as like they're telling a story about something that happened to them. And I notice a lot of time when people do that, the immediate response is somebody else telling a story about something that happened to them that's similar. Whereas I feel like she and a couple other people that I can think of, instead of doing that, like really like hit on the best points of their story and like, really just try to support it. It's hard to describe, I guess, but it's just being more, like being kind of a selfless conversation, or like, it's just a really admirable quality that I've tried to implement in my own life a little more.
What's something that God has showed you or done for you this year?
Oh, that's good. So I think throughout all of college, I've really had like, not a tough time, but like it's been the time in my life that I've been most faced with like figuring out what I believe in from like a faith perspective. And so I think this semester was a time when like being really busy, I was just like, like that was one of the immediate things that I was like, all right, we can push this to the side. There's no, pressing due dates or anything. There's like a, like absolute minimum 1 day a week, like, I guess, necessity. So I think it was really just kind of figuring out how to work around more time constraints. And I don't know, I feel bad calling them that because, you could make time for anything, and a lot of the stuff was just spending more time with other people, which is, something that's important, but also easily rescheduled or moved around. So I guess it would just be like learning what times of day are best to devote to, praying or any faith pursuit, I guess. And so a lot of the time, it sounds, obvious, I guess, in retrospect, but like the best times being right when I wake up or right before I go to bed, just taking time to think about that and, get back to it, I guess, because it seems like, throughout the entire day I get through it, and then by the end I'm like, oh, yeah, faith is a thing that's in my life that I just had no time to think about today. So it's just been, really trying to double down on it in, setting aside time for it, going back to the scheduling thing, scheduling around apathy, but also knowing the times where I can, knowing the times where there's an environment that works out well for it and giving it the attention it deserves, I guess. It's always going to be there, but you can't, you don't want to take advantage of that fact.
Yeah. So what's some advice that you would give to freshmen who are going to be just starting school next semester?
Well, from a general student perspective, there's plenty of civil specific things I could say, but I will, I guess, but I'll start off with, in general, figure out immediately how you're going to, schedule your life, because I say that I've just been working on that, but that's been sort of a 4-year dragging myself through the mud, trying different, a physical schedule where I schedule every single hour of the day, just writing down when due dates are and fitting them in whenever, doing things solely through my phone, with a bunch of apps, doing all of that. If you can find a scheduling system that works well for you from the get-go, you're golden. You're gonna be just fine after that. But I guess don't worry about it a whole lot. Then find something to be involved in immediately. That's really good. I mean, I wasn't even sure that I was gonna join the drama club, and then Sam was like, yeah, I'm gonna check out drama, and I was like, I have nothing better to do. So I jumped into that, and that was the best part of my college experience by far. So yeah, I guess figure out how you're going to structure your academic life, find something you want to get involved in so you can figure out how to balance those two things. And then, I mean, everybody kind of does homework differently, whether they're, somebody more like me who will wait until the last possible second, or if they're doing things weeks in advance. Figure out that system, and either one can work, but hone that system, I guess. If you're going to be that person that pushes it to the last second, at least be good at it, So, yeah, I guess kind of just try to set a bunch of habits right away. I think that's kind of true for any major transition in your life, to do that. But getting involved in something, for me anyway, was the best part of college. So I would say that's probably the number one tip I have. And then for any civil specifics, the FE's not that scary. Don't worry about it. I mean, it was you take a lot of, there's a lot of stuff on there that you don't take classes for, but it's not that hard to review for. And so, I don't know, I feel like so many teachers, they're like, this is going to be on the FE, you have to know this. And you do, but you'll learn it throughout your whole college career. So don't think of this it's this looming thing far in the future that you're gonna have to, it's the final boss or something, because that's how I thought about it. Every class I took, I was when I knew there were gonna be questions about that on the FE, I just kept seeing it getting closer and closer, and it was this big horrible thing that happened, and I went in for it and I took it, and now that I've passed it, obviously it's easy for me to trivialize it, I guess. But at the end I was yeah, that was, I was all prepared for it, so how bad could it really be?
How about some advice for people returning students, I guess?
Oh, sure.
Coming back, or...
Yeah. So I think the group that probably needs advice the most would be people just coming into their junior year, because I think from people I've talked to, that's easily the hardest year in engineering anyway. So if you're about to be a junior, be ready for that, I guess. But in general, I think, people coming back already know what the college experience is like, so they'll already know sort of how to, like I said before, sort of balance their life in that manner. It just depends on if your class load is changing, how to adjust for that. So advice I would say for people returning, just know how that's going to change, like how much more or less you're going to have to do, and how to reevaluate things based off of that. And then if you were living off of campus versus on campus, it's a lot less convenient. You make sure you're still on time for things. I don't know, man, I really do not have very good advice. I'm now learning for people returning. Yeah, I don't know, just the work-life balance. The quicker you figure that out, the easier things will be, I guess.
It's definitely a true statement.
Yeah, probably a generic one, but
Some people give generic advice, but it's generic for a reason.
I guess so.
It's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are you? What's something that you're looking forward to next year?
Whew. Definitely the not having to do homework, probably more than anything else. I'm glad to be, getting paid to do engineering rather than paying other people to do engineering. That'll be nice. But I guess just kind of the, with each, from high school to college, you get a lot of freedom, and then from college to being like a real adult, if you will, you get a lot more freedom. So I guess just knowing that I really am kind of completely on my own, which can definitely be a scary thing, but I just like to frame it in I can do whatever I want, and there are going to be the means to do whatever I want. So I guess just the, not having the stress every time I come home from work, even if there's something I have to work on. It's not going to be nearly as bad as a bunch of homework assignments that have strict due dates, and there will be projects in engineering that have due dates, and so that's fine, but just a lot of my own free time that won't have to be devoted to schoolwork is probably the biggest thing I'm looking forward to, but also just the potential to find something interesting and be able to put myself into it even more, because it's with school and doing things that relate, working with clubs in school, it's always academics this first, because that's what the institution is for. And in real life, you have to focus on your job, and that you can, sustain yourself financially, but also, seeking to find enjoyment out of it. But your personal interests and your job, I feel like in the real world, a little easier to separate them, I guess. Whereas with school, they're all kind of rolled together because they're all through the same institution. So just being able to figure out that balance will be kind of fun, and knowing that it'll be a little easier to do, and with work probably being less demanding on my free time, if anything. So that was a more complex answer than I set out for it to be, but
That's good. Complexity is nice. So that's the end of the official question list, except for any additional comments that you want to make for your future self when you come back and view this video as an old man.
Oh, man.
In the glory days.
Oh, I'm excited for how much more competent you're going to be than I am right now, because that's my favorite thing, is looking back on times that don't even seem that long ago. Even me as a sophomore, I was looking back, I'm so much better as just a person all around than I was back then. It's really fun to see just how much better you get at everything the older you get. So I hope this provides some suitable comedy, because I can already think of some things that I've already said that I'm yeah, I could have phrased that better, wow, that was lame advice. So, I can't advise my future self, because he's so much better at everything than I am. I hope I get to that point, which, if I'm watching this video at some point, good job, you did it. You didn't die before that happened, I guess. Yeah, but any additional comments in general? Yeah, thanks, I guess, for the opportunity. It's a very cool project, so it sounded like something I wanted to be involved in.
Yeah. Wish I had involved more people sooner, I guess.
Yeah.
In retrospect.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's interesting, I think. something for future archaeologists to look back on. So
Right.
what are the mindsets of college students in the early 21st century?
Yeah. Well, and I always want to, I really like, I want to find some hobby of some sort where I'm creating something. That's something that I've been thinking about a lot this year, that I have pushed back because of, why, like, once I get into my job in Kansas City and I can really set a rhythm where I know there's not going to be any drastic changes. I mean, I have to put it on hold for anyway. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to do that. And so how that relates to this is, this is something you're doing that's obviously like something you're creating rather than consuming, which has kind of been like almost a theme for the semester as far as my introspection has gone, like thinking about how much you produce versus consume. And so that's, I don't know, anytime I see somebody that is producing something that I think is cool, I really admire that, because I know it's not easy, because it's so much easier to just consume other things people make. So
Thanks.
yeah.
Well, it does sometimes feel a little bit like consuming, because really all I'm doing
I
is...
mean, yeah, but you're
But then I spend like 15 hours editing
Right.
it together.
yeah, I know how much goes into especially any sort of video media when it comes to editing, yeah. And I think that, and this is sort of a tangent, but it's like when you're talking about abstract art or art that people make fun of because they could have done it.
Yeah.
My answer to people saying they could have done it, I'm like, well, you didn't, And so anybody actually doing it is already taking like arguably the biggest leap in the creative process. So just the act of doing it, I think, is a lot of the importance, even if it's not something that is so easy to directly admire, I guess, And I think that's the trouble people have with, abstract art, to keep the metaphor going, is that, there's not necessarily a lot of talent in doing it, but a lot of the importance of it is in the doing it. So the doing this is a lot of, the editing's the skill part, I guess, but the actual interviewing of people is the doing, which is, an important thing.
Thanks for the encouragement.
Yeah, no worries.
Speaking of encouragement, something that has kind of come up, even though I've never directly asked it until now in an interview.
Yes.
With all the drama club people, they always get to talking about how they got involved. So just for consistency, would you mind?
Oh yeah, how I got involved in drama club.
Yep, drama and improv and all
Sure.
the things.
Well, to go back to the way back of how I got involved in drama in the first place, there was this group in Woodland Park that did like shows every summer for kids. I was in like 5th grade, I think, when I did my first show of any merit, and it was because Sam and a couple other friends, their parents all were like, that my child might be interested in. And so then they told my parents about it. My parents were like, here's something my child might be interested in. And so I did it, got a terrible part, like, I don't even remember if I had any lines, and it was super fun. And so I just kept doing it with that group, and then in high school I did it a little bit more, but I wasn't very good at it. So I didn't get, like, any big parts, which, is its own discussion. So in high school I kind of, like, fell off a little bit, and then I came to school here, and this is maybe going to sound offensive almost, but like, it's nice going to a school where there aren't drama majors to compete with, so we're all, it's all something we care about, but it's not our, like, what we're doing for a living. So it's something that we can all focus on having fun, but knowing we're putting something together at the end of the day. So getting into drama club itself here was just Sam saying, here's something we can do, and I was like, yeah, I got nothing better to do, like I said. And then I just kept coming back to it because it was, something that the people were really fun for all 4 years. People left, the new people coming in were always great, and I think this year was probably the best, like, group of people that I've had for drama. So I think it was always the people that kept me there, but the shows itself were always fun, no matter what part I had in it. In Done to Death, I had a single line, but but it was during the health semester for civil, so I was like, I'll take it. That shit was really fun, even though I was only at, a third of the rehearsals. Like, every time I was there, it was still a lot of fun. And the scenes I was in were fun, and it was, going to the whole small parts versus big parts thing. I think if you can just focus on the joy of doing it, and you'll have fun with it anyway. But big parts are more fun, I guess. And then as far as improv goes, I really don't know. Like, we did it in high school, and the thing that I really disliked about it in high school was our drama teacher was like, so here's improv as a concept, and here are like the 10 rules of improv, starting with yes and. And so every time I was in a scene, it's hard enough to do improv, but like doing it with all these rules in mind, like trying not to break any of them was really tough. And so when I came here and started doing Saturday night improvs, it was really casual. Nobody really cared if your scene was terrible, and they didn't, it wasn't, for better or for worse, we weren't really trying to get better at it. We were just doing it for the sake of doing it. And so I had a lot of fun doing it for the sake of doing it. It wasn't something that I was like, this is something I really want to get good at. It was just something fun to do on Saturday nights. And, with anything, if you dump enough hours into it, you'll get somewhat good at it. And so I feel like I got somewhat good at improv. And so once we turned it into a performance thing, that was when it was really nice to have those two separate places to, this is for doing it to improve it and doing it to make people laugh, whereas Saturday nights, there's, you try to be good at it to make people laugh, but it's more for the fun of it. So I guess Drama Club has this really nice, and I'm sure there are plenty of other, hobbies that people have that have both these aspects, but it's something that you're there to create something and to get better at something, but you're doing it by having fun and interacting with amazing people. So it just seemed like a good thing to dump a lot of my time into. So
Definitely takes a lot of time.
yeah. I think in both college and the real world, you have to find like one thing that you're going to put a lot of your time into. So once I found out this was worthwhile, I was like, all right, take it, as much time as you want.
So do you have any standout moments from all your shows, mini roles?
Oh, geez. I don't know. I think, like, probably the thing I'm most, like, proud of, like, times I look back on that I'm like, that was my best moment in Drama Club, would probably just be, like, my, like, solo and forum, I guess, if I had to pick one, just because I was very insecure about my singing ability pretty much right up until that role. And then that was the year that I was like, all right, time to figure out singing. It's too big of an aspect of drama to ignore. And so doing that solo to a level that I was happy with was just a big accomplishment. And I think it was a lot of fun, and it was a good part of the show. So that would probably be my high point. But I think in general, I just kind of view drama as like a, the shows I've done here is just a big thing that happened, and the high points all just kind of blend together in the greatness that is the whole concept, which is something I don't think I really considered until now. Like, I look back on, some of my favorite shows, like, I think Rumors was my favorite, like, non-musical, and Fiddler was just, great because it was a drama, and Forum was great because it was just maybe the most fun musical that was not strictly a drama thing we did, but there's, so many, all the high points are, high for different reasons that it just all blends together, I guess, so, yeah. Which is a really lame answer. I want to tell you, like, this one time right after a moment in improv, I was like, this is the greatest drama thing I've done to date, and I wrote it down somewhere so I'll remember it forever, but at the end of the day, I'm like, yeah, it's all pretty good, I'm a big fan of every part of it,
It's all about being in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, kinda, yeah. I mean, that's the nature of performances,
You may want to clarify slightly for the viewers at home in Forum, what was your part?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was Hero, who was the slave owner of the main character, who was Pseudolus, and the song that I'm referencing specifically was right at the beginning, which was called Love I Hear. Yeah. And he's just singing about learning possibly what love is for the first time, but the importance of it was the fact that I was the only person singing and there was nobody I could lean on, I guess. So it was nice to, take that step out of my comfort zone that then became part of the comfort zone.
That was an excellent show.
It was a lot of fun, yeah.
Trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to ask about specifically.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure being the interviewer is hard to
Yeah.
find subjects.
Yeah, it just depends. I feel like my goal is just to get the other person talking.
Yeah,
and then
that's
let them
true.
take it away.
I mean, don't get me started.
Well, I mean, we got time.
Yeah, no, I just, I feel like I talk a lot in general, you know? Like, I really admire people that you ask them a question and they can get their answer to you in like the fewest words possible and you know exactly what they mean, because I feel like when people ask me things, I'm like, well, let me tell you a story. Let me take you on a journey. And then by the end, I'm like, yeah, so I got to my point back there on the road, but there's this really nice point coming up. We might as well just keep walking, you know? So, yeah, it's a dangerous road to embark on because it's very long.
Well, that's kind of the point of these videos, is to chronicle a person.
Yeah, get the snapshot of their personality.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I talk a lot.
Yeah.
I give very bad advice and very general answers to what do you enjoy. So
I wouldn't say it was bad advice.
yeah, I guess not. Yeah, I guess you're right. It's generic for a reason.
You know?
But
So there are definitely some handy points there, especially about scheduling things. That's something
Mhm.
that not a lot of people who don't already have it figured out
Mhm.
think about.
I guess
going
so.
to college.
yeah, because you can, like somebody that has it figured out, they'll tell you how, you know, about how every hour of their day is scheduled and how they color code everything. But like, you can only watch so many videos of people with bullet journals and look at so many apps that schedule things for you before you figure out whatever works for you the best, you know. So. And I could give people like specific examples of what I've done, but I'm like, half of that they'll just hate, so I'll just let them figure it out, you know.
No.
But yeah, I feel like when you're trying to give advice to people, you either want to give them something general, because if you give them specifics, it's because it worked for you specifically, and it probably will not for them, or you want to give them specifics because giving them general will be no help. So hopefully this is one of the, you know, prior examples. But
Gotta get that good balance in there.
right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I feel like as far as, you know, my getting a snapshot of my personality, like I would have to talk about something really specific, you know, which drama club I guess is the easiest, like, you know, thing that we have in common that you can really easily like engage me with questions about. But
Unless we want to get into religion.
yeah, that's true.
I'd like that. I don't know if anyone would watch it, but no one watches the videos anyway. So.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's a hard subject to talk about in, not like in this context, for people to like seek out videos for, because I feel like people are really like they know what they think about it, and they really don't want to be challenged on it, which, you know, I don't like being challenged on it, because like I'm pretty sure of what I believe, and I don't mind defending it, but I feel like defending it a lot of the time is like just an activity that I have no interest in, you know.
Yeah.
There's like a quote from John Green that is, you know, a lot of people ask me whether or not I think God really exists, and I just think that's a terribly uninteresting question. I'm like, I guess, yeah. And so a lot of times people ask me very direct, like, why do I think this, or why do I think that, or, you know, what drives some of my actions, you know, whether or not I have a concrete answer for them, all the time I don't really care to like tell them, you know, it's not like I lose anything from not.
Yeah.
So.
You're not bred to be an apologist.
Right, yeah. And I think that, you know, so much of my time in general, whether it's religious or not, is spent, you know, avoiding conflict, not necessarily out of like fear of conflict, but because of its, you know, it's unnecessary. And a lot of times that I'm like, anytime somebody comes up to me, they're like, conflict, I'll be like, no, it's okay. I'm all right.
Oh. Except in improv, and then you just go and kill everybody.
Yeah, that's where I get out on my, I haven't had conflict in a long time, let's make some. Yeah, I don't know. Because I think that, and this is getting into, here's some raw personality for you. Like, one of my biggest, like, insecurities maybe, is that I feel like people think that I don't, like, don't have, like, a backbone or, like, strong opinions on something. Like, I'm very wishy-washy, and that's definitely true on a lot of things, mostly because I'm apathetic about a lot of things. So I'm like, does my opinion really matter? No, it's not gonna affect anybody, right? So it's like somebody's like, well, here's a point, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. That's an idea about fish that I never really thought about. And somebody's like, they're wrong. This is the thing about fish that's important. And I'm like, no, that sounds pretty good too, but I really don't care about fish, so I don't have a strong opinion about that. My bad. And they're like, you can't. You're spineless. You can't pick an opinion on fish. And I'm like, no, I cannot. My bad. So I don't know. I think you gotta pick your battles. But a lot of battles are really unnecessary. So if I'm gonna pick a hill to fight and die on, it might as well be something I know about or care about. Whereas the fish hill, there's a lot of people fighting and dying on that hill, and I'm just trying to like dodge the bullets, I guess.
So I definitely get that. Which is something I realized, the article that I wrote in a panicked haze after I forgot that I'd written a newspaper article for this issue of the school newspaper that I thought I was going to write. I did not express that well.
Yeah.
I think that's a very, even if you're just doing it out of apathy, I think it's a noble thing to do. Like, to be okay to not have opinions on things.
Yeah.
Some things. There's some things that everyone should have an opinion on.
Right, yeah.
But,
And it's hard because when you get to something that you do that is important to have an opinion on, and you're getting people that are giving you great ideas from, both sides of the issue, whatever it may be, and you like find merit in both, you're like, oh, but I have to pick a side. This is too important to, agree with too many people on. And so maybe that's something I struggle with. But I think that, yeah, I say picking your battles, which makes it sound really dramatic, but I think that, having strong opinions on things that you are interested in or good at is the most important thing that you should put you're already putting your time into it, so you might as well put your, beliefs into it, and really put yourself into it, I guess. So like when people, talk about like, when they're really passionate about something dumb, like something that a lot of people think is trivial, I'm like, that's fine, you make a good case for it, you might as well. Yeah. Like Haley saying Brenner, God, is that a stupid thing to talk about? But being passionate about it, I can respect that. At least you care about something, right? It's like the poem Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. It's a very stereotypical sounding poem because fire and ice is like a really generic concept to compare things. But in case people watching this haven't heard it, essentially what he talks about is whether he thinks the world will end in fire or ice. And he says first he thinks that it'll end in fire because people are really passionate about things and they're going to kill each other over it. But if he thinks that the world would have to end twice, he thinks that ice would also do. And he doesn't really explain what he means by that, but what I take that to mean is sort of apathy and people not caring about anything and then just perishing as a result of that. And I think that if we were, closer to one than the other, it is probably the fire because, wars and shit. But I think from a, important, human experience, ice is always the bigger threat, because when people do care about things that, are trivial, people will trivialize them. And when people care about things that are important, they will be, they'll kind of tunnel vision on it and, get a little too crazy about it. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Great drama club schism of Brenner. Tear
Yeah.
apart the club.
the great Brenner fight of 20 whatever.
Yep. Great Brenner War of 2018 through 2021 when it finally came to a head and split the drama club permanently.
Yeah, into two separate factions, both called the drama club because everybody on the outside couldn't see what the big deal was.
Yep.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think that I think that's something else that I've realized in the whole creating things versus consuming things, is that if you have a strong belief about pretty much anything that you find interesting that may be trivial, so long as it's not like hurting people, I guess, you can find other people that will either share that interest or at least find your specific enthusiasm for it interesting in some way or another. So I think that's important to, not diminish those people's interests, because they might, either they're passionate about it or they're going to find out something important for themselves or other people through it. So, yeah.
Or they just like breeding conflict sometimes.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's fair. I guess that is a negative use of it that could occur.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'll just categorize that in the hurting people section.
Yeah, I guess.
But I know it's not that easy. Yeah.
Categorizing things is hard.
Yeah. Something humans really like to do, but we're really bad at doing.
Yep.
But at least we're passionate about it,
Yep.
Yeah. Huh.
Categorical imperative. I think that's probably something, that's not what he meant when he said that term, but it sounds cool.
It would be a really good title of an article talking about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Might have to use that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, we still have 40 minutes.
All right. I mean, if there's something you want to grill me on, go for it, I guess, but...
Kind of thing. You like jazz?
It's all right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think about something I can do to, make that whole last section make more sense,
Mm.
But I don't know.
I feel like the onus is on me as the editor to do that.
Sure, yeah, I don't know.
Sometimes some people's statements are much easier to edit than others.
Yeah. Well, I noticed when Sam and I made movie reviews, my speech pattern is very unpredictable in when I'm gonna pause. So there was some section of a sentence Sam had to take out. He was like, "You don't ever breathe. Words just all flow together, I don't. If I have something in my mind figured out that I'm gonna say, good enough at improv and putting it together in the first place, then I will just run straight through it to the end." So good luck with that, I guess.
I do like that you do pause, though, and that your spaces where you do run a lot of words together tend to follow a single coherent thought. Because the worst people to edit are the handful of people, or at least that out of all the dozens or so people that I've edited before, there are a certain class of people who they talk, and then when they're thinking, they're still making sound, so you can't just cut it,
Right.
and then cut out 5 minutes of them talking and string it together with something else, and it sounds roughly coherent.
Okay.
You have to leave their full sentence as a single
Right.
sentence, whereas other people who who use a lot of consonants and enunciate well,
Mm-hmm.
I can usually work around.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, you gotta leave all their buffering in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Huh. Or cut it really awkwardly, and then it's just
Right. And then people are like, "Were they gonna say something else?" And you're like, "Nope, it was just thinking," but you wouldn't know that from watching this.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I think that's something that I have an issue with in just thinking before I speak in general. I definitely, I don't say, things I regret that often for that reason or anything, but definitely a lot of the times I said something, I'm like, ooh, I could have worded that a lot better, right? So I definitely take time to get my point across, but I don't take a lot of time refining it.
Yeah.
The first way to explain something will always be the route I go. The reason a lot of my jokes fall flat is I never question whether or not I should make them. I question whether or not I can make a joke out of it. And I'm like, oh, found one, say it,
Yeah.
Rather than find one, is it quality, take half a second to check, and then throw it out there. So I think that's my problem, is there's not a lot of quality checking. There's just can I find something on this? Yes, here it is.
I feel like that's a school of improv that a lot of people subscribe to. I mean, it does not work for me just because of my personality type. but I admire people who can do it.
Just take anything out of it, you mean?
Yeah,
Okay.
like the people who can turn out 10 jokes in the time it
sure.
takes me to figure out what I'm going to do for my first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool, even if 9.5 out of the 10 jokes are not good.
Right, yeah.
Unless they're just really bad.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I wouldn't say yours are ever really bad.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I feel like I can identify some really, like, the far ends of the quality spectrum, and at least weed out the worst and really, like, embellish the best. But throughout the whole middle, I'm like, yeah, just stick it all out there. Which is why, like, the things that I would want to, like, in a creative aspect, that's something I would really look forward to in a non-performance aspect. Because in performances, whatever you do at the time that it happens is what you're going with, right? You don't have time to, like, in the moment, figure out, like, what the quality is for improv, especially, I guess. But with, like, writing or art or something, the whole process is, refining it. And I feel like refining things in general is something I don't do a lot. So whenever I settle on whatever my creative outlet's going to be, when I have time to put towards it, that's something I look forward to getting better at, is refining the quality rather than just pumping out the quantity.
Yeah.
Because I think that with, like, just as an example, if I were to, like, say, I don't know, write a book or something, I think my process would be just doing that sort of stream of consciousness, whatever maybe would be good at all, just getting it all out there and then going back and then being able to pick out the quantity, but at least putting it all out there so things that maybe I would not have identified as quality in the moment may have been, and then I can pick it out later looking back on it. Whereas with improv, I'm like, you just make a couple jokes and then afterwards you sit and think about it and you're like, oh yeah, that one probably would have been better just to leave out altogether. Yeah. So that'll be a nice change.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one thing I really enjoy about writing is I also, because all the advice I've heard, they always say, especially for beginning writers, just put everything out there.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And then going back and rereading and be like, this is so bad.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of fun to see how, like, laughably bad it is sometimes.
Right.
And then finding that one great sentence.
Yeah.
In the midst of it all.
Yeah. Yeah, just recently I've written a couple poems here and there, and it's really fun to, like, you just write it, you, like, get all the ideas down, and then going back and then really making, like, quality edits to it, and then when you get the product you're happy with, it's so much more satisfying just because it is probably your best, like, yeah. You decided that was where you were going to leave it, so it was the best that poem was ever going to be for you. Like, that's kind of a lot of fun, because like, back in high school I wrote things for, like, classes and stuff, like creative writing classes, but anytime you're doing something in an academic standpoint, for me anyway, it's really hard to care about making it the best it can be, because once I get it to the point where it gets me the amount of points that I want, I'm like, what's the point in making it any better? So, like, yeah, just recently I wrote a poem and I sent it to Joseph Updike, because he writes a lot of poetry, and he, like, gave me some really quality critiques. He was like, maybe try this, and so by the end I was like, this is way better than it would have been had I submitted it for an assignment or something,
Yeah.
So that's just, like, doing something for the sake of doing it when you don't have, when it's not, necessarily for, for making a living, I guess, would be the most important thing. Like, you can really pump out some quality stuff because you're doing it for your own enjoyment and for the sake of doing it. Yeah. It's like this, have you ever read The Name of the Wind?
No, but I've heard of it.
Okay. Because that author, he is writing a trilogy, and that's the first in the trilogy. And he's written the first two books, and the second book came out, like, 3 years after the first, pretty normal book writing time. But the second book came out, like, 8 years ago or something, and he is currently writing the third one, but he says that he's having such a hard time with it because now he's not doing it because he wants to do it, he's doing it because everybody wants the conclusion to the story and everything, and so he's having a really rough time putting it together, because now it's not doing it for the sake of doing it, it's doing it because everybody wants him to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of interesting with, people that make their livelihood off of their creations, which I guess everybody does in some sense, but, like, I feel like authors and, like, YouTubers, even like people that like stream games on Twitch, stuff like that. I feel like they're probably not enjoying it nearly as much as they would had they just done it for the sake of doing it. So that's kind of where that's one of my rationalizations for why I get C's. It's, I could have done better, but I just didn't want to. They took the enjoyment out of it by making it worth points. Gives me it's just a grade A excuse. Oh, chock full of grade A excuses.
That's as long as you can justify it, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's any excuse is valid so long as you get a good,
As long as it helps you achieve your end goal.
Yeah. Ooh, there's a lot of like intermittent sarcasm here. There's a little bit of serious, a little bit. And people watching this are just gonna be like, God, this guy's an asshole. He really just he does jack all and finds a way to justify it to himself. That's awful.
Yeah. But I mean, then you talked about like the creating and stuff, and that's important. Something that's like
That's
Man
true.
in the Arena speech by Teddy Roosevelt type thing. That's big right now, right?
Yeah. that's a pop culture. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I do an awful lot more talking about it than doing it. So, and I talked about how important doing it is. So now I'm a hypocrite. You tore it all apart.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But in like 100 years, when your grandchildren find this video,
Mm-hmm.
but remember all the stuff he went on to make.
They're like, yeah, he did some engineering stuff, but because he was doing it for a job, none of it was that great. And he just kept playing Hearthstone, and he never went to write any more of those poems he talked about. He never got good at chess. Yeah, no, I'm sure I'll figure it out at some point.
I know.
But it's just so hard to do things.
That's what midlife crises are for, right?
Yeah, that's the problem. Is like I have all these like. Now that I know that I'm gonna have all this time coming up, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have so much time for activities. And I was talking to Sam about it just the other day, and he was like, well, you should at least start doing it now, because so many people put it off for many excuses. And I admit that waiting to get to a more like stable environment is an excuse, but I think that it'll just be so much easier to start off once I get there. But people make lots of good excuses for why they haven't started things, and this is one of those. So I don't know, it's tough. But I've written a couple things here and there. I'm just not putting a ton of time into it because of schoolwork. So
Yeah.
hopefully that's enough of a springboard to get me going.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I like making arbitrary deadlines personally.
Yeah.
Like just pulling for this. My goal is to have 3 plays written by the time I come back to school.
Nice.
A drama club to choose from, and we'll do one of them.
Okay. That would be
Hopefully.
sweet.
But I'm like, I shouldn't do it till I get back from Kenya. I'm not gonna have any time. I'm
Mhm.
not gonna have a laptop with me.
Mhm.
That's like, and then I should give myself like a week or so to get all these things edited and stuff.
Yeah.
I just know that like, if I don't do something, it's maybe I'll get one done by the time I get back to school. So I'm just like, yeah, June 10th. If I haven't started on it by June 10th, I'm going to start on it on June 10th, no matter if I have to stay up till like 1 in the morning to
Mhm.
start, to get at least the first. I didn't set a word goal exactly yet,
Mhm.
but to get at least decent progress. Because when I write, I know myself well enough that like once I have said that I'm going to sit down and write for an hour, that hour is going to turn into like 3 hours unless
Yeah.
something comes along.
Right. Yeah. You can trust yourself a little bit as well.
Yeah. Just because I know once I get in the writing mood,
Mhm.
it goes
Yeah.
until I'm forced to stop because I'm literally falling asleep at the desk or whatever.
No. Yeah. I get that.
Um,
Yeah, all of literally every letter I've written for people has been right before I go to bed, and then I finish the last one. I'm like, wow, my wrist hurts and I'm tired. Like, I want to I have so many good ideas for this next person. I see them on the list tomorrow, and then yeah.
So yeah, there's nothing special about June 10th except that it's after I know I will have had some time.
Mhm.
Just like,
Okay, that's a good point.
I don't know. For me personally, I'd say I have like 90, maybe 80% success rate of sticking to arbitrary deadlines I set myself.
Okay.
Sometimes things do come up that make it really, really difficult, and then I just am like,
Sure.
you know what? This is just a completely arbitrary deadline. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
But usually it works.
Okay. And I mean, I guess it kind of plays into my own advice of creating a schedule. I should probably just try to schedule creative pursuits just as seriously as serious ones.
Yep.
Yeah. Because I know the steps you have to take to get better at writing, and I know the steps you have to take to get good at chess, and I know the steps you have to take to, be good at things. But if I could just be like, do this one this day, this one this day, maybe that'll work.
Yeah.
And give it a try.
Get up at 5 a.m. in the morning, do your morning prayers, play 2 games of online chess, go to work, come home, write books.
It's the dream.
Yeah.
And it's probably not so far off from what it'll be like, hopefully. We'll see.
The idyllic American lifestyle.
The American dream is waking up, praying, playing chess, going to work, coming home and writing books.
Go.
I'm sure, what's the author I'm thinking of? Wrote East of Eden, Grapes of Wrath. Steinbeck. Yeah. I feel like he'd respect that lifestyle, Yeah. He writes some good books sometimes. He probably knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. If people say study the lives of people you want to emulate and like do that, and then you study the lives of famous authors, they're also radically different. I don't know what to do.
And you're like, man, I really want to write like Ernest Hemingway, but if I need his experiences to do that, maybe I'll just pass. Maybe I'll write like somebody that had it a little better off, had a little more a nicer end.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, the alcohol part sounds fun though.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You gotta write like John Green.
There you
That's
go.
good.
Yeah.
It's a little hint of tragedy and depression,
Yeah.
but not like crippling amounts.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like going along with the whole creative thing. The reason I started thinking about it so much in the first place was a discussion Sam and I had about what makes people interesting, and it's, what people do, what they make, like I'm not, I don't like talk to other people and I'm like, wow, all those YouTube videos you watch, that sounds really interesting. That is a part of your personality that I think is really cool, like, and it's important to consume media, and like you can talk about really good books you have in common with people, and that can make somebody interesting. But I think that ultimately it's the things that you create that make you an interesting person. And for whatever reason, I care a lot about being an interesting person. So that's the way to get there, I guess. Maybe I'm just, a very one of those stereotypical like people with a need for attention or something, but.
You just go about it in a very interesting way.
Yeah, I mean, performance-based art is a good way to do it without seeming like an asshole, so that's the route I'll take. But there are a couple other things that I'm like, and that's the thing is it's almost like paradoxical, because when you go into doing something that could, like with, say, writing a book or, creating some sort of media, what makes it good is that you're doing it for the sake of doing it. But like with Patrick Rothfuss, as soon as he got good at it and it became interesting, suddenly it was hard to do. And like, you cannot set out with the goal to do it to be, to make people like you or be more interesting. You have to do it because it's something you want to do, and it'll come as a result from that. And so if you can just think about that without fixating on it, then you're probably in a fine spot. And that's what I'm trying to do, I guess. But we'll see. But I feel like anytime you talk about like, I want to be a more interesting person, I want more people to like me, you just sound like arrogant from the get-go. So,
Yeah.
it's but I mean, everybody wants that in some capacity.
Yeah. I think, especially saying you want to be more interesting is that seems like good, as long as it expresses itself in good ways.
Right,
It's
yeah.
a good thing.
Yeah.
Like,
And you can definitely like, in a narcissistic sense, do things because you will like admire yourself for doing it. Like,
Yeah.
that's really important, is, being happy with yourself. So if you're making yourself a more interesting person to yourself, that's probably good.
Yeah.
So first person you have to impress is yourself,
yeah.
I guess. That sounds like, oh man, that would make a great Hallmark card. I would sell that for like $2. Man, middle-aged moms, they would eat that stuff up.
Yeah.
Rocket sales.
You should write for a weight loss firm or something.
Yeah.
Or fitness, maybe a good fitness magazine.
Yeah.
Tagline.
Oh man, I could sell like, I could put out a line of mirrors like given places like Gordman's that say that right at the top, like the first person you have to impress is yourself. Oh, man. But then you're playing on people's insecurities, and oh man, it's just, that's rough. No, I think part of my like approach, I guess, to artistic anything, whether it be improv or writing, is not being stereotypical. So like anytime I say stuff like that, I'm like, that was terrible. That's like, I said, I'm like, that was so low hanging, anybody could have come up with that, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's because back when I was in high school, I thought, especially with like poetry, but with just kind of art in general, I thought stereotypical meant it was good. And so I spent a lot of time making some very stereotypical like art in many forms, and looking back on it, I'm like, oh, that was awful. That was terrible. And I think maybe I just have like this unnatural sort of aversion to it, because I did it and I saw, like, I realized how it's like not being stereotypical that makes something good in a lot of cases. I'm like, what in the world was I thinking? So now I like avoid it like the plague or something. It's probably more than I need to, but yeah.
Whatever works.
Yeah, whatever gets you.
I think my favorite thing to do is to take, if I ever hit a wall in my books, I'm like, I'm not sure where I should go with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would be the most stereotypical thing to like happen at this point in the horror story? The most stereotypical thing would be they open the closet and the monster's in there, or something like that. So I try and think of that, and then I do exactly that, but somehow subvert it in an interesting way. Like that's,
okay.
I don't think I'm very good at coming up with original ideas, but I'm really good at taking ideas that exist or are stereotypes and then coming at them from interesting ways.
That's a good way to get over a block, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest though, I don't think anybody really has original ideas anymore. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of the time, because I've done a lot more like research for doing interesting things than I've spent doing interesting things, which I really got to stop. But a lot of people that I've heard that are really good at writing or making videos or good at chess, like they're always like, yeah, I just took like a couple like inspirations and then just mixed them all together and then put my own like spin on it. And I think that maybe is what originality is, is your spin on things other people do, or the stereotype or whatever. But I think that it's really hard to go about doing things in that manner unless you're thinking about it like you're saying, when you get to a block and then you have to really go through that whole process of like, how have other people done this? How am I going to do it? But I think that's a good philosophy just in general for creating things, is taking things that other people have done and doing it your way. I mean, it's hard to like say what your way is without sounding original, right? So
Yeah.
It's originality in some sense.
Yeah, I guess also if your thing is too original, it's not going to resonate with people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Huh. Yeah, I guess I haven't thought about that, but you're right. Yeah, you say something, you're like, I find this funny, but will anybody else? Or any emotion you're trying to elicit, I guess.
Yeah. It's got to have that connection as well. It has to be familiar enough to connect with, even if it is very outlandish.
For sure, yeah. I mean, in a lot of the videos and stuff I've watched, all of my insight is just recycled as well, but like that's, somebody was talking about the art they were making. They're like, yeah, one thing that I really try to, like the underlying thing I do to anything is to elicit some emotion. And in order to do that, you have to, communicate it in a medium that they can connect with, whether it's by, like challenging their idea or, telling them a story that's similar to something that's happened to them in all likelihood. And so, yeah, that connection aspect is what gets it, to people, not in like you want to get it to people not just because you want like notoriety or anything, but that's the whole point of creating things, is for people to consume them, I guess. So.
Yeah, I think different people have different. I've read a lot of opinions on that because that's something I think about a lot. Is how can decent or good art still be considered great art if no one consumes it? Because like I think the process of creating, especially with more abstract art, like the process of creating is as important, if not more important, than the actual final product itself in my
Right.
mind.
Mhm.
But at the same time, is it truly great art if you're just doing it? I think doing it for yourself is definitely something important and
Mhm.
perfectly valid and stuff
Right.
like that.
Mhm.
But if you don't share it and show it to people, can it truly achieve greatness? Like how much is the...
Okay.
Which is something I've been thinking about. Not a whole lot lately, but whenever
Mhm.
I have a lot of free time, I think about that a lot. Because I have a couple of stories that I'm personally really proud of, but I never want to show them to anybody because they're like either super violent or just weird.
Sure.
Some concept that I really was like, this is a great concept, and I write it. I was like, this is terrifying that this
Yeah.
came out of my brain.
Sure.
But I love it. But
Yeah.
can it truly be good if I don't ever show it to anybody?
Yeah. I mean, I think with things you create, you have an audience in mind. And a lot of the time, the preliminary audience and the audience in your head while you're doing it, it's just yourself, so you don't have to worry about it, like you're saying. But I think that probably a lot of things that people really like started off that way, you know. Yeah. I don't know. I guess if I had, I think, like I know you weren't maybe asking me this question in such a literal sense, but I don't know if they can be great if you don't share them with people. I don't think they can. Like, that's my gut reaction to that.
No.
But I'm definitely in the same boat. Yeah, I've written things that I'm like, I don't want anybody to read this. This is, too weird or too, this or that. But
Yeah, because that was my gut reaction as well. Because when anyone tells me to like define great art, which I've had to do like sometimes for academic papers or sometimes just talking to people, one of the first things I say is that it has to like promote virtue or something like that. Something. I usually develop the argument a little bit.
Yeah,
but
based on
like
that.
I think that great art should inspire people. How can it inspire people if you don't show it to people? I mean, you could argue that you're inspiring yourself or
Right.
promoting virtue in yourself or something like that. But
sure. And that's important, yeah. And like, I think that's why, like, I think that it doesn't, count if it's just you that you're like connecting with it, because you already sort of did that in the creation of it, I think. I think that's where you can use that as a, it's making you better because you're doing it. And then the final product, while can inspire you, I think it's the fact that you made it more, even if it's like, I'm trying to think of a metaphor so I can communicate this easier, but like if you write some paper on some really important concept, right? The fact that you wrote it and did all the research for it and stuff, like the concept, obviously it inspires you because you did it, right? And so you look at the final product and you're like, oh, this really inspires me. Of course it did, you made it, So like, yeah, that's why I guess I don't think it like counts for inspiring people if it's just yourself maybe, but.
yeah. I think there is a good, the movement to promote, because I know I do the National Novel Writing Month like every year and stuff, and one thing that they always push is you're writing just for yourself. You're writing just to get words on your page, because that's the biggest hurdle that aspiring novelists come to, is they're just like, I'm not going to be good enough, so they never try.
Yeah.
It's like the point of this is to write 50,000 words of just pure rot. You can fix it later,
Right.
but you have words. I think that's both for that reason of like just getting over that hurdle of like, wow, this is awful, but I made it. But and then also like therapeutic purposes, like if you hit a creative block and you're trying to write something for people, but then you can't, and you just write something just for yourself, and it doesn't matter if it never sees the light of day. Like I think that's an important, like I said, form of therapy type deal for creative people to just let loose and not care for a while.
Yeah.
But I would be inclined to agree that therapy is not therefore art unless you share it with people.
Right, yeah. And it's like, not everything you create has to, be art that you want to, like, share, I guess. Like, if you're doing it just for therapeutic purposes and it'll never see the light of day, but it's something that you want to do for yourself, obviously do it, right? No reason not to, but,
Or it's just for, like, one special person or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that goes to the, target audience as well. I think, like, if you're writing, say, I don't know, the easiest metaphor is like a love letter or a poem to somebody you love. Like, I think that could be great art, even if the only other person to experience it is the person you wrote it for, because it's somebody other than yourself, I guess, that thought it was great, you know? Yeah.
That's interesting. Interesting idea, Ben. When you consider, like, what if it's something that gets published posthumously?
Ooh, yeah. I think then if that became great, it did whether you wanted it to or not, but yeah, that's interesting. Like with that book by Harper Lee, that was, yeah, after, it was like, did she really want that to happen? I don't know. Did it become great art despite the fact that maybe she hated it? Coulda. Bummer, I guess, like, not a lot we can do about it now, but.
It's like John Green says, once you've created something, it no longer truly belongs to you once you put it out in the world.
Yeah, and like that's a really interesting idea. Almost, yeah, that feels kind of bad, you know? Like, you do something that you did solely, like you're saying with the novel thing, like, you're doing it solely for yourself, but if it gets to a point where you want it to be for other people, suddenly it's not at all for you. Well, not at all, but yeah, it's not really yours anymore, yeah. What a weird thing.
Yeah. That is art, and in my opinion, engineering is a form of art, but is interesting. The act of creation, like many commentators have said, what it means when it says we were made in the image of God, is that we are made with the desire and ability to create something that is completely new and original in some sense, depending on that one Vsauce video that he made about the fact that like every word ever written does actually exist on the internet, and every play that ever was written or will be written in the English language exists on the internet because of that one website that has just randomly generated code for every possible combination of letters in the English language.
Yeah.
But still, the idea to create with intentionality and birth an entity that is outside of yourself and then is no longer part of you and takes on a sort of life of its own, even if it's not truly alive. It's freaky.
Yeah, that's insane. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I guess that's why, like, you know, the like originality comes from the act of doing it, you know, because you decided that doing that thing was better than not. And some other people didn't. And so, I don't know, that's, yeah. Originality is a weird concept that is, I think, too pure in people's minds. I think if you dirty up the definition of originality, a lot more people would be happy with it and would say that they're original.
Yeah.
So.
I think there's even some art that there could be some art in total ripoffs as well.
Sure.
Asylum movies that they make.
Yeah.
Total ripoffs of big blockbusters. Like I think that ripping off is an elegant form of art.
Oh, for
Like,
sure.
I'm sure if you're just doing it for cynical cash grab money, get money from drunk people that check out movies at Redbox, then that's not great.
Right, yeah.
But like, I think just something that just blatantly rips off the plot of Star Wars or something, which changes a couple things around, can still be art. I don't know, I'd go so far as to say it can be great, but yeah.
The key in that, you just got to make sure nobody realizes that's what they did, and then it'd be amazing. Yeah. No, but yeah, I think you're right. I'm sure there are some things that are like very famous or hailed for being super original that maybe could be something that like they ripped off 80% of it, but nobody knows about the first thing, so that they get all the credit for it. And I mean, it's kind of a shame, I guess, but it's how it happens.
Like The Lion King.
Yeah. Yeah, kinda. Huh, yeah, that's a good point.
Or all the nerds will say Hunger Games is just a rip-off of Battle Royale, but then I did go and finally watch Battle Royale. I don't see it, other than the fact that it's a bunch of kids forced to kill each other in an arena.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, you're probably right. But, you know, as somebody who consumes art. I'll take what I can get, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting though.
Well, I'd love to continue talking, but improv starts in like 18 minutes-ish.
Oh, no, that's fine. I think I got,
So,
said everything I wanted to, so.
yeah, I just gotta get all this cleaned up.
All right.
Head over there. So thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks for letting me do it.
Good,
It was a fun
good
opportunity.
conversation.
Yeah.